in the regular season, found all those different ways to win games, and it was just unbelievable. Whether it was block field goals or last minute touchdowns or, whatever it may be, they were getting outgained and they still found ways to win. And they wound up going to the Super Bowl that year. Well, then there's another team that I kind of compare Argentina a little bit to as well, was that 2023 TCU team that played Georgia in the college football national championship game. All my fellow college football fans will remember that TCU team ran the table in the regular season. That team had no business going undefeated. It was very Chief-like, where they played in about 5 or 6 games that could have gone either way, but they found a way to win all of them. Then they got to the national championship and they matched up against Georgia. Just like when the Chiefs got to the Super Bowl, they matched up against the Eagles. Well, I think we all know when the Chiefs played the Eagles in the Super Bowl, they got smoked. And when TCU played Georgia in the national championship, they also got smoked. I think Georgia just scored another touchdown. They won that game like 65-7 or whatever it was. I'm not saying this game gives me vibes of those two, because again, like Chiefs Eagles was an absolute beatdown. Georgia and TCU was the beatdown of all beatdowns. But Spain is clearly the better team. And they're minus 160 to lift the cup. And let's be honest, I mean, you got to pay the Messi tax in this game, right? Like sports books, they know they're giving away Messi as an underdog. And people are afraid to fade him. So you're paying a tax for Argentina. If Spain's minus 160 to lift the cup, that tells me that really they're like they should be like minus 190, almost minus 200 to probably lift the cup and win this game. So the value, if you're just wanting value in this game, it's definitely on Spain. Like at this point, you're not going to get value on a public team with a player as great as Messi. So the value is on Spain. The line is probably shorter than what it should be. I just think this is one of those games, again, where it reminds me of Chiefs Eagles and TCU Georgia in the sense that, Argentina, they've had this great run. They could have lost to Cape Verde. They should have lost to Egypt. They could have lost to Switzerland. They should have lost to England. A lot of shoulda, woulda, couldas. And credit to them for winning all those games. But when the Chiefs lost the Super Bowl, they played against the best team in the NFL. When TCU lost in the national championship, they played against the best team in college football that year. And Argentina going up in this World Cup final, they are playing the best team in the world. That is Spain. They're the European champions. They won 2 years ago. They were the pre-tournament favorite coming in. They reminded us all against France why they are the team to beat and why they are so tough. They're just so fundamentally sound. Argentina's been able to come back on these teams because either they don't have the personnel against them, because it's just the aura of Messi, and like when they get a lead and they're up, they're just kind of in cruise control and they think, oh my God, we're going to win. And they just relax instead of continuing to play. Spain's not going to do that. They don't blink. They're almost robotic in the way that they go about it. That France game was so clinical. It was so technically sound. The way they pass the ball, it just looks different. The way they move the ball, it looks different. They're spacing. They're defending. They've only given up 1 goal this entire tournament. Now, devil's advocate might say Portugal played Spain close. Well, if you want to go all the way back to the group stage, Cape Verde tied them. Portugal, that game against Spain in the knockout round was 0-0 going into I believe like the 89th minute until Spain scored. Spain and Belgium was tied 1-1 until Spain scored an extra time to win that game. Argentina is better than both of those teams. Argentina is better than Belgium. Argentina is better than Portugal. So if you're making the case for Argentina outside of I just want to bet on Messi and I just think they're going to do it again, well, Spain has showed that, they can be human against some lesser competition. And again, because their offense isn't necessarily as great as like an Argentina, as great as a France, they can play games 1-0. And if you're doing that against a team like Argentina, the longer that the game goes, soon enough, as we've seen through this entire tournament, if you give Argentina enough chances, they are going to hurt you. I just think Spain is the better team. And Argentina has been playing with fire this entire tournament. And, our guy Ken Barkley, who obviously used to do this show, always had a great line when it came to March Madness, when he would say, anybody can win 4, but it's impossible to win 6, right? You need 6 wins to win a national championship in March Madness. You need 4 wins to make it to the Final Four. We've seen a lot of crazy teams make the Final Four throughout the years. We saw George Mason do it. We saw Wichita State do it. We saw Florida Atlantic do it, right? You've had all these kind of Cinderella type teams make Final Four runs. None of those teams have won a national championship. When you have these type of teams like Argentina that are they're just skating by the skin of their teeth, they're just finding ways to constantly win, but they really should lose. They're not looking very convincing. At some point, you just run into a juggernaut. At some point, you just run into a top team. And that's what they're facing on the other side against Spain. So look, I get it. Like, if you're betting against Argentina, nothing about it is exciting. There's no way you're betting Spain with 100% confidence. And you're not just there's not just a little part of you that's worried about Messi on the other side. Because like I talked about at the top, it's like betting against Brady, or betting against Michael Jordan, or betting against Nick Saban as an underdog. Like that's a scary proposition. There's nothing about that is 100% exciting. But a lot of the times, the best bets to make and the best picks to make are the ones that are the most uncomfortable, because there's a reason why they're a little bit uncomfortable, right? If it was easy, everybody would win. Everybody would get their predictions right. But this one is definitely a little bit hard, because there's always going to be a part of you that is like, is Argentina going to find a way? Are they going to do it again? Are they going to constantly work their magic? It's that aura of Messi. I think Spain is the way better team, like way better team. It would not shock me if they won this game like 3 or 4-0, to be honest with you. Argentina's had a very favorable path. The really only top team they have truly played so far is England. That's really it. And I think we all agree England was better. They should have won that game. If Tuchel just continues to play the game that they were playing for the first 60 minutes, keep with that press, try and dominate a majority of the possession. They were doing a really good job on Messi. If they just would have kept doing that, they probably win that game. Well, Spain is going to continue to do that. Like a lot of times I just hate betting on dumb teams, right? Like I'm the kind of guy, when I'm betting the NFL, I just like betting underdogs. I can't help myself. The amount of times I bet in the Tennessee Titans in the last few years, the amount of times I bet the Jets, the Browns, all those teams. I'm that guy. I go dumpster diving. I like betting the gross teams in the NFL. I'm not betting on a gross team this time. I'm betting on Spain, which I'm very happy about. And I think they're going to come through. I think they're going to win. I like them to win in regulation at plus 130. If you just want to play it safe, lay the juice for them to lift the trophy at minus 160. I think that's a great bet too. Again, I know it's scary going against Messi. I know you're getting him as an underdog again. And there are a lot of you that you just want to roll with Argentina, roll with Messi. You're already going to be rooting for him. You don't want to bet against them. And if you lose, you just tip your cap to Spain, and so be it. I'm going to be on the other side. I'm going to take Spain to win the match in regulation. I'm going to take them to lift the trophy. And to be honest with you, I might like sprinkle a little bit of correct score, Spain 3-0, Spain 4-0, because I do think there is a chance that potentially this game could get a little bit ugly. Argentina has not seen anything like they have with Spain, and I think the Spanish could dominate. So I'll take Spain in the World Cup final. Tomorrow, we have the third place game between France and England. I understand they play this game because of money, and they want all these people that traveled to these countries to be able to see their team for another game, but how demoralizing is a player to play in the third place game? You're France, you're the favorite. You played in the World Cup final the last 2 times, and now you got to go play in the third place game. Or how about England? When you're up 1-0 against the defending champs, you're up 1-0 in like the 86th minute, and you lose in regulation, and now you got to go turn around and play the third place game. Absolutely brutal for both teams. I usually like betting the over in the third place game because motivation is always a question. Like, is either team going to care? Is either team going to be motivated? Isn't the game just going to go back and forth, up and down, and both teams are just going to try and score on one another? So over 3.5 goals at BetMGM is even money. It's plus 100, and I think for good reason. I usually always like betting the over in the third place game. Really no thoughts on a side. France is better. They should win the game. But again, would it shock anybody if they just didn't show up? So I'll pass on the side. I'll take the over in the third place game, and I'll take Spain to win the World Cup final against Argentina. A lot more coming up here on You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM. Mike Tannenbaum of ESPN and former Jets general manager going to join us next here on Westwood One Sports.
Welcome back to You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Better You Bet by BetMGM. Filling in for Nick Kostos here on this Friday. Mike Tannenbaum going to join us here shortly. We'll also have Ryan Noonan coming up in about 40 minutes to talk Open Championship, and we'll talk MLB second half at 9:40 a.m. Eastern time. But let's get to the phone lines. Mike Tannenbaum joining us now. Give Mike a follow on X at Real Tannenbaum. You can watch him on ESPN, former Jets general manager as well. Mike, really appreciate the time. And let's get right into it. At ESPN earlier this week, they released a top 10 quarterback list according to executives, scouts, and coaches around the league. Josh Allen, they had as the number one quarterback on that list. Do you agree that coming in to this season, that right now Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the NFL?
Yeah, nice to be with you. These debates are always fun this time of year. Really depends on, the criteria we're making that decision. He's certainly in that conversation with Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes. If we're talking about durability, health, things like that, clearly, with Burrow and Mahomes coming off of injuries, that's going to cloud the conversation.
Like you said, the QB list is always subjective. And Mike, I think a lot of people in their top five would kind of have the same quarterbacks that you mentioned, the Allens, the Mahomes, the Burrows. Who's kind of the quarterback that you've always been higher on than most, right? Because when it comes to guys like Herbert or Dak or Caleb Williams, Drake May, kind of those quarterbacks, a lot of people differ on those guys. Who's the one for you that you maybe like more so than other people do?
Justin Herbert. I think if we were designing a quarterback in a lab, it would be Justin Herbert in terms of arm strength, athleticism. This could be the year it all comes together if Joe Alt or Rashawn Slater can stay healthy. It's a team that is going to want to run the ball, has really good physicality up front with their offensive linemen and O'Barry and Hampton. But Herbert could make all the throws. He's tough. He's smart. I think he has incredible upside.
Do you like them in that division this year in the AFC West?
I do. Kansas City has a lot of questions at corner, certainly at receiver, the health of Patrick Mahomes. I think Denver is going to be really good, but I just like the upside a little bit more of the Chargers than the Broncos, but I think that's going to be a very, very competitive division.
It is, and we know the Chargers, the Broncos, and the Chiefs are going to be in contention and looking to win this year. The Raiders are still in a rebuild, Mike. They got Fernando Mendoza, as we know, with the number one overall pick. How do you think Mendoza's going to be as a pro? Do you like him a lot? And do you like the fact that the Raiders, it looks like, are going to start the season with Cousins and kind of have Mendoza learn and try to grow under Cousins?
Yeah, I love that paradigm because there's no rush to start Fernando Mendoza. I think he has a chance to be Matt Ryan. I think his athleticism is slightly underrated. We saw that in the championship game against Miami, and there is no rush to play him. You're hoping that Mendoza is the quarterback for the next 10 years, not the next 10 weeks. So I love Cousins early. Let Mendoza learn the offense, and I would not rush playing him.
We're talking with Mike Tannenbaum here on You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM. This segment is sponsored by Progressive Commercial Insurance. Protect small businesses with affordable coverage options. Quote today at progressivecommercial.com. Mendoza was the number one pick, Mike, but there were a lot of really good rookies in this draft class, especially early. Did you have a favorite or two that you liked that you think could make an impact right away?
Well, if you just go to the next, David Bailey, I think is going to be really good. I think he has a chance to be an elite edge rusher, probably better against the run than people think. And then just from a skill standpoint, I think Jeremiah Love is a fascinating player. You think of someone like Bijan Robinson, and I think Jeremiah Love has that sort of three-down ability, explosive, tough as a pass protector, really good in space with the ball. I think he's an underrated route runner. So I think there's a number of good players that should impact. the season, especially when we get into the non-quarterback discussion.
Mike, last year, I mean, we had a surprising Super Bowl, especially if you would have told people what it was back last offseason between the Patriots and the Seahawks. We get it every year in the NFL, whether it's teams that go worst to first in their division, surprise teams that make the postseason. Do you have a team or two this year that you really think could surprise some people?
Yeah, I think the aforementioned Chargers, if they could stay healthy, and the 49ers, those were two teams that had critical injuries. Again, when you lose two tackles, it's really hard to win for the Charger standpoint. And then for the 49ers, I think their injuries on defense were historic. And if they get most of those guys back who play, the Fred Warners, the Nick Kostos, anywhere close to, where they've been in the past with that offense, once George Kittle gets back, and if McCaffrey plays in 17 games, I like the upside. That division, though, is brutal. When you think about the Rams, especially if the Rams add Aaron Donald, they're going to be, a handful on both sides of the ball. But I do think the 49ers can exceed expectations.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, talking about the Rams, they're such a heavy favorite right now to win the Super Bowl. They really don't look like they have much weakness on that team, especially if they stay healthy. How do you think you go about beating the Rams with Stafford leading the way on offense and Myles Garrett leading the way on defense?
I talked about this a little bit on SportsCenter earlier. I think the key is to make them play defensively the run. If Aaron Donald is back and Myles Garrett, and they're just teeing off, they're going to get 40 sacks between the two of them. I think you want to stay balanced, make them defend the run. And if there's a weakness on this Ram team, one is their offensive line to me is good, not great. And then behind Devontae Adams and Puka Nacua, there's some question marks. And again, the hard part about the NFL is, we're talking about a 17-game season, and, can they hold up at that key position? So, without question, going into the season, they're the favorites. But that's the fun part, right? Like, there will be unexpected twists and turns.
Mike, as a former general manager, the Rams are going to be starting the season against the 49ers in Australia. Like, if you were part of that team, if you were the GM of that team or in that front office, like, would you be thrilled about that trip? Would you be looking forward to the opportunity, or would it almost kind of give you a headache just knowing, the travel coming back for week 2, or maybe some early preparation to get ready for the season? Like, how would you feel about quite literally traveling across the globe to play an NFL game and then coming right back for week 2 to get ready for another opponent?
Yeah, look, I see it as an opportunity, and you get to represent the league, literally, as you said, halfway across the world. You do come back to a little bit of a mini bye. It's a privilege to do it, and candidly, it's now part of, everyone's responsibility now that we're seeing such, globalization of the sport. So I think there's going to be more of that, not less of it. And, to me, it's a mindset of, like, be it Mexico City, Toronto, Europe, it's just part of the world of playing sports in, 2026.
So, Mike, I asked you about teams that you think could surprise this season. You said the Chargers and the 49ers are teams that you like. What about on the flip side of that? Who are teams that maybe people think could end up being pretty good this year, but you're not necessarily convinced?
Yeah, I would say the Bears, just from a standpoint, if you study the statistic of turnovers, they were so good at that last year that it's hard to sustain that. So, it's known as a regression to the mean, meaning that if you're a statistical outlier, chances are over a course of time, you're going to come back to the average. And I just think while the Bears are exciting and they're young and, clearly they could have a dynamic quarterback, I think this year, unless they lead the league in takeaways again, they may be a better team with a worse record.
What do you make of that division? I feel like the last 3 or 4 years we've been talking about the NFC North. You can make a case for all 4 teams, and I think this year is no different. Would it be Green Bay, Detroit, Minnesota for you, Mike? Who's your lean there to win that division?
Yeah, I'm going to go with Green Bay. I agree, though. I think we could have a really interesting discussion, and there's a bunch of teams we could say, hey, they could win it. I think Minnesota is really interesting, just given, we'll see how Kyler Murray does with Kevin O'Connell. But I think they're a really interesting team. But I think when you look at Green Bay with a healthy Micah Parsons at some point, with such an explosive offense and the ability to rush the passer, that's really the key of the sport. Is you have to be a point scorer on offense, and in the fourth quarter, you got to be able to rush the passer.
We're talking with Mike Tannenbaum here on You Better You Bet of ESPN, former Jets general manager as well. Mike, a couple more for you. We got a lot of first-year NFL head coaches or coaches on new teams this season. I believe it's 9 or 10. Which one are you most intrigued by at their new stop this year?
Probably John Harbaugh, in New York. I think he's going to do a great job. And if we're talking about a team that's surprising at some point, and it's the Giants, we'll be able to look at things as like being well coached, limiting penalties, limiting turnovers. I think he's a master tactician. So certainly think John Harbaugh in New York is going to be a really compelling storyline during the season.
Training camp is starting up here for a bunch of teams in about the next week and a half or so. As a former GM, Mike, did you find it like, was there a period of time when you kind of realized what kind of team you had? Was it maybe after a week of practice in camp? Was it after the first couple of preseason games? Did you really not know until you got to the regular season? Like over the years, did you have a general sense between you and your staff of what kind of team you guys were going to have at some point in camp?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I think, you get a feel heading into camp, and certainly, you should know who your top 30, 35 players are. And look, there's going to be surprises both ways where maybe a young player's ascending, and maybe they're ahead of where you thought they'd be. And likewise, what you got to be careful of in our sport is, and Alvin Kamara just redid his deal, and he's a good example. The Saints signed Travis Etienne, and Alvin Kamara has been a great player. How much does he have left? I really don't know. And you have to be really honest with yourself of like, is this the same guy that he once was? So I think good teams evaluate themselves, each year with a fresh lens.
Great stuff, Mike Tannenbaum. Give him a follow on X at Real Tannenbaum. You can watch him on ESPN, and former New York Jets general manager as well. Mike, know you're a busy guy. Really appreciate the time. Thanks for stopping by. Great talking with you, and hope to do this again soon at some point during the season.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep, good stuff there. Mike Tannenbaum here on You Better You Bet. A lot of interesting stuff there from Mike, another guy who loves Justin Herbert. We're actually going to talk about, again, ESPN dropped an article earlier this week where they polled executives, GMs, scouts who gave their top 10 quarterbacks for the upcoming season. And as we know, those kinds of lists, they're all subjective. Everybody, you talk to 10 different people, you'll get 10 different variations of their top 10. I made my top 10 quarterback lists going into the season. So we'll get to that at the top of hour 3, 11 a.m. Eastern time. So excited to talk about that. But yeah, I mean, Mike's high on the Chargers this season. And again, on paper, Jim Harbaugh, he's always won a lot of games in the regular season. They do get those linemen back. Herbert, I don't love him in big games, but he usually wins the games he's supposed to, especially in the regular season. And I love the Mike McDaniel pickup. And that NFC North division, again, last 3-4 years, it just has felt like you could make the case for Chicago, Green Bay, Minnesota, Detroit. Minnesota is definitely the fourth of those teams, but KOC is a heck of a coach. Flores is a heck of a coach. And Kyler Murray, we've seen it a bunch with these quarterbacks. Some of them just need a change of scenery, and it wasn't working out in Arizona. Maybe he can find something there in Minnesota. So that will definitely be a very interesting division. Great stuff there, though, from Mike Tannenbaum. When we come back, we're going to talk some Major League Baseball to wrap up hour number 1. We had the Phillies and the Mets yesterday start the second half of the season. Today, we got all 28 other teams beginning the second half of the season. We have a ton of tight divisional races. I'll give you guys the top things that I'm monitoring, the teams that I like, the teams that I don't like in the second half of the season as well. and we will wrap up hour number 1. And then, of course, Ryan Noonan going to join us at the top of hour 2, about 25 minutes to talk about the Open Championship, where Lucas Herbert just finished his second round. He shot an 8 under today, and he's currently 2 shots on top at the Open Championship. Going to take a quick time out here. You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM with PJ Glasser on Westwood One Sports.
Welcome back to You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
BetMGM players will receive an MLB Odds Boost token and an MLB Parlay Boost token. To use the token, add MLB bets to your bet slip and activate the respective token. If you win your wager that was made with either token, you will receive extra winnings in unrestricted bonus dollars. Make it legendary. Download the BetMGM app today, and please gamble responsibly. Going to talk some MLB here in just a moment. A reminder, Ryan Noonan going to join us coming up here in about 17 minutes, 10 a.m. Eastern time, to talk about the Open Championship. Joe Malfa going to join us in about an hour to talk World Cup, and then Eric Froton in an hour and a half to talk college football. So still 3 great guests to come. Thanks again to Mike Tannenbaum for just joining the show a few minutes ago. But let's talk some baseball here on this Friday. Second half of the MLB season starts today for just about every team. 28 teams. Yesterday we had the Mets and the Phillies begin their second half in Philadelphia. But today we see all 28 other teams in baseball. And what a second half it should be, because right now, if you look at the MLB standings currently and how these divisions stack up, the AL East is decided by 3 games right now. Tampa is 3 games up on New York. The AL Central is decided by 3 games. The White Sox and the Guardians have the same win percentage, and Minnesota is 3 games back. The American League West is also decided by 3 games. Texas is a game and a half up on Seattle, and they're 3 games up on Houston. How about the National League East? The Braves are 2.5 games up on the Phillies, and they're 4 games up on the Marlins. The Brewers are 5 games up on the Cubs. And then really the one that's over is the NL West, where the Dodgers are 11.5 games up on the D-backs and 12.5 games up on San Diego. But outside really of the NL West, I mean, all those other divisions there are definitely for the taking. So it's going to be a great second half of the season. And look, with a lockout most likely coming in Major League Baseball next year, and there's a good chance we're going to miss baseball games, whether that be 2-3 weeks, whether that be a month or 5 weeks, 2 months, who knows? I think a lot of us think we're going to end up missing games. So because of that, you wonder how aggressive these teams are going to be at the trade deadline, right? Knowing that there probably is going to be a season next year, but also you're paying a bunch of these guys a lot of money. They're not going to play their full 162. So go after it, get your money's worth, and see if you can try and win a championship this season. So I think the deadline is going to be super, super interesting, and it'll be telling what the Red Sox and the Tigers do. Those are the 2 teams that I am monitoring the most here at the deadline. If you've kind of been following baseball this season, you know the Red Sox were left for dead. They were buried. They got off to a terrible start this season. They fired their manager, Alex Cora, a couple other coaches on that staff. They were one of the worst teams in the American League for like the first 2.5 months. Then here recently, the last week and a half, 2 weeks before heading into the All-Star break, Boston's been the best team in baseball. They've won 9 straight games, and now they're only a half game back of the American League wild card. So these are going to be the next big 3 weeks for the Red Sox here, because I'm sure all their fans, their front office, their players were thinking, well, we're going to sell. I could be on a new team this season, but you're a game and a half back now. And their pitching is terrific. Their hitting has been up and down this season. Wilson Contreras was an all-star. He was very good for Boston in the first half of the season. I would expect them to add another hitter or 2 at the deadline. But with that pitching, they could do some damage if they get into the postseason. So as of now, I think Boston definitely would be buyers, if anything, after this recent hot stretch. But definitely want to see what happens in the next 3 weeks. And then the Detroit Tigers, right? Tariq Skubal's contract is up after this season. You're talking about the best pitcher in baseball. It doesn't look like the Tigers are going to keep him. They can't afford to, and they don't want to pay him all that money. So you would think they're going to trade him at the deadline, try and acquire as many assets as they can. The Tigers were in a similar situation to the Red Sox, though, where it looked like a foregone conclusion that they were going to be sellers. They've started to win a little bit. They're 7-3 in their last 10 games, and they're only 3.5 games out of a wild card spot. So if the Tigers go on a little bit of a run here in the next 3 weeks or so, they also could be a team that maybe looks to buy, maybe hangs on to Skubal, because this was a team that made it to the ALDS last season. They lost to Seattle in that game 5. They go out in the offseason. They get Framber Valdez. They look to bolster that pitching staff. They didn't do enough to that lineup, though, and that's what's really hurt them this year is how bad that lineup has been. The pitching's been fine, but the lineup has just been really bad for Detroit for much of the season. They've also been a brutal team on the road. They're 17-29 away from Detroit this season. But I think the Red Sox and the Tigers are the two teams I'm watching because both a month ago, you would have never thought they would have been in this situation. Certainly the Red Sox, now after 9 straight, they're right in the thick of it in the playoff picture. And then Detroit, you thought they were cooked too. Skubal was definitely going to be on the move. Now it's like, okay, if they play well in the next 3 weeks, and let's say they're a game and a half, 2 games back of a wild card spot, there's a chance that maybe they could go for it. The entire American League is going to be super interesting because outside of the A's, outside of the Royals, and outside of the Angels, all those teams feel like if they get hot here over the next 2 or 3 weeks, they could go from potential sellers to being buyers and make it to the playoffs because that's the thing about the AL this year. There's no team that really scares you to death. There's no Dodgers in the American League. Tampa's been the best team all year, and they're really good, but we kind of all know what Tampa is at this point. They do this every year. The Yankees, that starting pitching is really, really good. Judge will come back at some point, probably in August, and you would think they're going to add to that roster. Seattle and Toronto are both in the ALCS last season. Both have really struggled this year. So the American League is wide, wide open this year in Major League Baseball. It's going to be a huge 2-3 weeks for a lot of these teams. They could go from being buyers to being sellers or vice versa. And I just think watching how all that unfolds is going to be very interesting. Also, the American League Central, I think, is the division that I'm monitoring the most. Feels like every year in baseball, we get a team that you can tell they're heading in the right direction. They're going to be better than maybe people think, but they just totally exceed expectations. And the White Sox are definitely one of those teams this year. I don't know how many of us thought we would get to the All-Star break and the White Sox would be tied for the division lead. But look, at this point, when you're 85, when you're 95 games into the season at this point, like it's just not a fluke. Like this is who the White Sox are. They're a good team. They can win this division and they can make the playoffs. Now Murakami is going to come back to help that offense. For teams like the White Sox, though, how aggressive do you get? When you knew coming into the season that you were going to be competitive, when you knew there was a chance that maybe you could go to the playoffs if everything broke your way. But now that that's a reality, how aggressive do you get if you're the White Sox? I think that's a lot of questions that some of these teams have to answer, especially in the National League, where you got a team like the Cardinals who are 1 game out of the NL wild card. You got a team like the Pirates who are 2 games out, the Nationals who are 4 games out. Like, a lot of people didn't think these teams would be in this situation when we started the second half of the season. And these teams have to decide if they're really going to go for it, or are they going to just try to continue the rebuild while maybe making some cookie cutter moves around the edges and picking up a reliever here, picking up a veteran bat there. Like, I think that's what the White Sox should do, right? Don't go crazy. Like, don't make a complete overhaul. Don't give away your entire farm system, but definitely make some moves to help out your ball club, right? Maybe get yourself another bullpen arm. Maybe get yourself another bat to help out with that lineup. But right now, I do like the White Sox to win that division. The Guardians are always there. They do this every season. Their pitching is always elite, and their offense is always very up or down. And it's always about Jose Ramirez. And when he's injured or he's not playing well, then the Guardians struggle offensively, but they're kind of the same team. The Twins, quite frankly, I'm surprised that they're a 500 team. I don't think they're very good. I think they're going to fade. I think this division comes down to the White Sox, and I think it comes down to the Guardians. And if I had to put money on one of those teams to win the Central, I would take the Chicago White Sox. I definitely think that's the most intriguing division, though, in the American League. In the National League, I think it's the NL East. The Braves got off to a great start. Right away, they look like the best, if not one of the best teams in baseball. They had a huge lead. a double-digit lead at one point in the NL East. The Phillies were 10 games below 500. Now they're 10 games above 500. They're only 2.5 games back. So many people are focused on those two, Braves and Phillies. I would keep an eye on the team right below the Phillies, who are 4 games back, though, for that National League East, and that is the Miami Marlins. They were the hottest team in the month of June. They played great baseball in July heading into the All-Star break. They have one of the best pitchers in the National League this season in Max Meyer. They have one of the best hitters in Otto Lopez. And let's be honest, they're the Marlins. Nobody pays attention. You never get to see them on national television. You never get to hear about them on national television. They never make any big splashes at the trade deadline or the offseason. But they've really built themselves a nice little team there in Miami. They're not afraid of anybody. They beat good teams. And again, the Braves and the Phillies, because these are big brand teams with big stars playing in big markets, a lot of people are focused on those two teams. But I think Miami could potentially win that NL East. So that could be a team that I would watch out for in the second half, and a team that I'm definitely high on here heading towards the end of the season. Another team I think is super fascinating at the deadline is the San Diego Padres, who go all in every year, right? The past 5, 6, 7 seasons, San Diego, they're always swinging for the fences, whether it's Juan Soto, whether it's Mason Miller, whatever it may be. They're always just unloading their farm system. A.J. Preller's a madman. Well, they're 12.5 games out of the division. And right now in the wild card race, currently San Diego is 3.5 games back. If they have a rough 2-3 week stretch, does A.J. Preller finally decide that he wants to actually sell this season? And what does that look like? I always love when teams who are usually buyers have to sell and seeing what kind of job they do. But that's maybe what A.J. Preller is going to have to do for San Diego. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk some golf. Open Championship, Ryan Noonan going to join us on the other side. You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM.
to win and to live the thrill of the action.
Hey, baby, let's go out there like a bunch of crazy dogs. What the hell's going on out here?
No idea what's going on, but I am excited.
Every pick, every play, every game-changing moment.
Unbelievable!
This is You Better You Bet, brought to you by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Hour 2, You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports. PJ Glasser here with you, filling in for Nick Kostos. We're on Sirius XM channel 375, Westwood One app, and you can listen to us on YouTube and watch on youtube.com/@thekostos. Great hour 1 of the show, 2 more hours still to go. And one of my favorites to talk golf with, going to join us here now, Ryan Noonan, who you can follow on X @Ryan Noonan. BetSperts Golf, also 4for4 football as well. Might pop in a football question for Ryan as well, with training camp right around the corner. But Ryan, we were talking off air. Just love the Open Championship. Links Golf, totally different to what we see these guys play each and every week. Birkdale's proven to be a great test so far. What have been your early impressions of the course, and how similar or different has it played to maybe your initial thoughts and when you were handicapping the tournament?
I think pretty similar. The weather's been, relative for Open Championship golf, fairly benign. I think wave integrity is really important and sometimes harder for an Open Championship because of the way that they send everyone off one, every 10 minutes, right? So we don't have like the standard wave splits, but we basically have identical forecasts Thursday and Friday. So it's really nice. Like the winds will switch in the afternoon direction and they'll ramp up. So basically, each of the majority of the waves, as we would call it, basically got the same experience on Thursday and Friday, which I think is really cool. You and I were talking before we went live. I love when guys have to get up to the tee and they know that it's not just club head cover off and send it. Some guys, the answer is club head cover off and send it, but you don't just know that like this is what I'm doing on all the 4s and 5s, even the 5s. Jackson Suber today, see him there late, the driving iron off of 17, one of the par 5s. Like guys have to make decisions based off of how they're playing, how the weather conditions are, and what their goals are on the hole. So I just love I love all of it. It's the last major too. Yeah. And I love that, no one gives a rip about the setup. We're not hearing about pin placements. We're not hearing about the rough and did they lose the course? No one cares. The Open Championship is for some reason doesn't get any of that stuff that we give to the PGA and US Opens in terms of setup and stuff like that. So it is what it is, but it's great. I love getting up at 4 a.m. and watching golf.
I was going to say, Ryan, it might be my favorite major. And the Masters is the Masters, and all the sports fans, they tune in for that one. We all love Augusta. We know all 18 holes. But there just is something about waking up at 4 a.m., watching the Links Golf. You get the British commentators. It's just It's different, and it's great. Is it probably your favorite major, too? What do you think?
I'm with you. The pomp and circumstances of Augusta, and we have this, the build up, I think, for diehards like us that are grinding, January, as soon as we start, we're grinding the off season, the swing season. That lead into the Masters is a lot of great golf. It's finally here. And so I think that build up is going to be really hard to compete with. I love the US Open because, we just see some of the best golf courses in America. But in terms of the actual tournament, I would put the Open Championship second behind the Masters for me.
Yeah, I agree with you. What were some things that you were prioritizing this week? Every golf tournament is different. Some weeks you want guys that can hit it long. Some weeks you want guys with great short games, iron play, whatever it may be. When you were making your models and things, what were probably the top 1 or 2 things that you really prioritized this week?
Yeah, form, you don't really typically go in terms of trying to find a winner. You don't typically find form at a major championship. Now there's, some outliers, and that's the one thing I think is endearing too about the Open Championship is you see these pockets of guys, you see people sharing the leaderboard. If this was the US Open, people would be losing their minds, and they're right. When you have the Dan Browns and the Jackson Subers and the Lucas Herberts of the world that can pop for a weekend, to be able to sustain that through the course of the weekend will be a little bit tougher. Stylistically, I thought it was hard to model off the tee because the more we were hearing from the players that were out there were going to be more driver opportunities than we thought early in the week. I thought you were going to have to really be able to navigate short grass chipping. So looking at, around the green proximity on short grass, because it's a different skill than when you go to like a US Open or you go to a PGA Championship. A lot of those venues have like thick, rough collar aprons. So it's a different skill than chipping around the green. So, be able to play. Again, we don't have a lot of data on links golf for most of the PGA Tour guys. It's such a small sample. So I think like relying on previous Open Championship history and stuff like that would be probably a little bit noisy. But, strong fields, difficult scoring conditions. Those are some of the fundamental pieces, and that's played itself out. Even though, people are talking about the rough not being super penal, we still have difficult scoring conditions. We still have relative to par, comfortably over par, which we love to see.
We're talking Open Championship with Ryan Noonan here on You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM. Give Ryan a follow on X at Ryan Noonan. Does a great job for BetSperts Golf. Ryan, as you know, Matt Fitzpatrick, I think, was on everybody's card this week. I don't know if I've ever seen a golfer as popular as Matty Fitz was coming into this Open. You do this every week. You've been doing it for a while. Does it scare you when a guy's that popular? Like when you have a guy that you really like, but you see so many people are on the same guy. If you still like him, are you going to bet him? Or when he's as popular as Fitz was this week, are you just like, you know what? I'm good. I'm going to pass.
Yeah, I didn't bet Fitz. I obviously he modeled very well. It made a lot of sense. His golf has been outstanding. He's won 3 times. He's almost won a handful of others, right? He very much could also have a Players Championship on his mantle if things go a little bit differently back there in March. So I understood the love, the steam chasing. Again, that's going to be more casuals. People coming in late and they don't care that it's still 14-1. So like if you just bet NFL football all the time, you're like 14-1. Like and this guy, everyone thinks this guy's going to do it. Like I'll get in on the 14, not knowing that that hold is probably pretty ridiculous. And there were, 18s and 20s available, which is still relatively short from my opinion and where I had him as well. So not being on it, I don't know if you were on a Peach, so I don't want to victory lap, on your grave here, but there's nothing worse than not being on the community win, right? When
yes.
It's oh yeah, he modeled well. I like him. I didn't make that click. And then, we come Sunday afternoon and everyone's celebrating. So I'm kind of okay. Sorry, audience, if you had Matt Fitz, but yeah, I mean, really, really, I've never seen anything like that for the steam. Sometimes, to be honest, we have a pretty good following at BetSperts Golf, so sometimes we are part of the steam and creating the steam. So there are times where I'll see, the popular tipped golfers, and I'm like, well, that's 3 of the 5 guys that I bet. But we do have some influence on why some of those numbers are the way they are sometimes too. So it's a little bit like double counting and a little tricky.
Yeah, thankfully I did not have Fitz, so I'm with you there, Ryan. But it's just I'm watching him these first 2 days. He's going to miss the cut, and I'm like, makes sense. I mean, the whole world was on him, so I'm sure the sports books are cleaning up this week. Scotty Scheffler's getting ready to tee off right now and start his second round. I thought he was so interesting this week. I mean, the last 2 or 3 years, the guy's plus 400, plus 500 every week. This year, Ryan, there was some 8-to-1s out there on Scotty. And you and I both know some weeks you just look at a golfer. If you feel like the price is wrong, you just bet them. That's what I did this week because you and I both know if Scotty wins this week or he's in contention, you're not going to see an 8-to-1 again for a while. I figured it was worth the bet at that price. Did you do anything with Scotty as well because you just felt like the number was too high, or did you think it was priced correctly?
No, I thought 8 was great. I thought I had a little bit of FOMO because you do a lot of my research, the weekend leading up, really in a major championship, the weeks leading up. So I almost formulated the majority of my card, which is tricky. This is the one major championship that I don't really jump into the futures market at all because the weather, I think, is such a high variant situation here. You could get caught into, a pretty substantial early, late split. That could really, wreck your guy from the jump. And it would be no fault of your handicap or his lead-in form or his fit for the course or anything like that. So it's the one that I am a little bit more cognizant of jumping in too early. With that said, Saturday night, Sunday night, we had futures boards up. We saw how guys were playing the Scottish. We had a sense of the weather, and it didn't look like it was going to be really a problem. So I got in a little bit. With that said, if I was kind of flying blind on Monday morning and had nothing in the bank and Scotty was at 8, I probably would have shot at Scotty. We just don't see that from him. We don't really see 6s from Scotty.
Yeah.
Coming off of a missed cut, I think really impacted that. So I think it was the right play for you. I'm a little I mean, he very much could win. He's the live favorite probably still, and he should, probably be right in that range. I haven't looked in a few minutes, but I felt like it was a little bit of a missed opportunity for him yesterday because he is going to be in the difficult afternoon winds, and he played really well yesterday. He played significantly better than he scored. If anyone's going to be able to overcome that and still pile up some birdies and make a run over the course of 72 holes, it's Scotty Scheffler. He's terrifying. So good for you for getting the 8. And, I think people want to watch and jump in live. If he's still kind of lingering in that today, I wouldn't hesitate. Now, I would want him to get off a good start. The front's playing a little bit easier than the back. But again, 8-1, good pre-flop number for you.
Yeah, as you mentioned, he is the live favorite right now, plus 500. He starts his second round 6 shots off the lead, but we've seen Herbert go 8 under today. Burns went 8 under, so there are scores out there. Cam Young also had a really good day, Ryan, at 7-1. I think it's so funny. Everybody bet this guy the first 3 majors, and it felt like nobody really liked him this week, so naturally, he's in contention. The leaderboard, the way it looks, again, there's not a lot of names that the casuals know. It's Lucas Herbert, Jackson Suber, Bud Colley's up there, Matt Wallace. Eventually some of those bigger names are going to rise up there. Cam Young is one of them. So is Cam the guy that you think is really the only one that's going to stay up there? Does Scotty make a move? Does Rory make a move? Who are some of the other big names that you see being in there in contention on Sunday?
Yeah, I would love it to be Cam Young. There's the one spot that I do have some earlier tickets on some Cam Young. So he wasn't part of the, released card this week, but I went all in on Cam, early in the spring and the summer. So that's part of the build too. So I have a little Cam. So I'm definitely cheering for that. Morikawa, that double on 18. 18 is going to get a lot of people. It got a lot of people yesterday. I was unfortunate to see, but he's playing really good golf. He's putting really well. He's obviously going to keep himself in play off the tee. So he fell back a little bit. I think he's probably an interesting, live ad because obviously that number is a little bit more appealing now post double bogey. Look, I'm with you on Hovland too. I'd like to see him put something together today. Again, I think it's going to be a little bit tricky for the afternoon guys. Course has got some teeth. The back nine's tricky, and the winds get, they're ramping up as the guys get to the back 9 today. So that's where it's going to be a little tricky. The leaderboards always kind of flush themselves out. Sam Burns made himself a run. He's been playing really good golf. He was just kind of a bozo in majors for like the last 6-7 years. Now it's like pieced together like solid major championship finish after one, like for probably like the last 5 or 6. So good for him, little baby swag. Obviously, that nice little finish for him to post a 62 and a 30 on the back, which is pretty incredible. So he's interesting. I imagine he's remaining in the mix. He's a great par 4 scorer, and with only 2 par 5s here, he benefits from that too. He can kind of separate. That's another thing for Cam Young. Like even when Cam was running hot early in the season, the guy just couldn't make a birdie on a par 5, but he's just eating up par 4 scoring. So that was part of the model for me this week too. Burnsy looked good in the model, but I was worried about like, was he even going to play when I'm making the model on Saturday night? So Burns, Cam Young, I imagine Scotty gets very much in the mix. I wouldn't rule Rory out. And I expect Morikawa to kind of hang too in terms of the big names.
You mentioned before we hopped on live that you're starting to mess with some live betting things. You're starting to track some of this stuff. Is there anything that's jumping out at you right now? Any guys that you've either made some live bets on or you're certainly monitoring that you might?
Yeah, monitoring, working on some stuff that we're going to get over to subscribers at BetSperts Golf. The ability to bet round scores, birdie or better, bogey stuff, pick 'em games for fairways and some different stuff. I want to kind of take advantage of some of the live data that we have here. Let me kind of see what we got going. Looks like I have Hovland kind of right on his number. Jordan Smith, round 2 score. I would take that over on DraftKings if you can get right around -130. Let me see if I get anything from friends of the show, BetMGM here. See if they're popping anything here. They like Cantley to go over, but he's a little bit late in his round. Ben Griffin over. On his round score, around 69.5. Model has him around 71.25. So Ben Griffin over live for round 2 score would be something I would pick off if you can find it.
Absolutely love it. Great stuff there. Ryan Noonan, BetSperts Golf. Give him a follow on X at Ryan Noonan. Before I let you go, you also do stuff 4for4 football. You're great with props. I know you're starting to dive into that season. Is there a guy or two, Ryan, that you love this season? You would take them in every fantasy draft. You're looking at their season-long props. Who are the players that you're pretty big on coming into this season?
Oh, I am. Because Move the Line is my football podcast with my buddy Connor Allen over at 4 for 4. You can find Move the Line wherever you listen to podcasts, YouTube. We started up our season previews this past week, so we got 4 episodes already booked for you there. I'm a psychopath, Peach. I've spent all the summer when I'm not working on golf stuff, working on defensive projections and defensive modeling and props. And so I love to bet tackles and assists. I love to bet sacks. I would say a lean over on Will Anderson Jr.'s sack number based off of where we've seen some early floating on that. I haven't got into the offensive stuff quite as much, so I don't have any props there for you. But how about Commanders win total over 7.5? I would probably take an alt, like if you can get like over 8.5 at plus money. Also bullish on the Saints, which I think is pretty common in the space too. Really nice schedule. Division, I think that's up for grabs. So I've gotten more into some of the win total stuff than offensive props yet because my brain is broken and I love betting on defense.
Man, I love that. Defensive props, man. That's fantastic. Commanders Saints as well. He's the best. Ryan Noonan, once again, give him a follow on X at Ryan Noonan, BetSperts Golf, 4 for 4 football. Ryan, appreciate you joining me, man. Enjoy the rest of the Open Championship. We'll catch up again soon.
You too, buddy. Run hot this weekend. Let's get a winner.
Absolutely. Great stuff there from Ryan Noonan talking Open Championship. Once again, Lucas Herbert is your current leader at 8 under par, followed by Cam Young and Jackson Suber at 6 under. We'll keep you posted on what's going on round 2 at Royal Birkdale. We're going to talk some Heisman Trophy market when we come back. Eric Froton going to join us later on in the show, about an hour. We'll get Eric's college football thoughts, but we'll break down the Heisman Trophy market. I'll tell you guys some quarterbacks that I like for the upcoming season. We come back here. You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM, your Westwood One Sports. PJ Glasser filling in for Nick Kostos.
Welcome back to You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Welcome back. PJ Glasser here with you, filling in for Nick Kostos on this Friday. Joe Malfa going to join us in about 20 minutes to talk World Cup. We got the final on Sunday between Argentina and Spain. We also have the third place match on Saturday between England and France. So we'll talk some soccer with Joe to wrap up hour number 2. Eric Froton going to join us in an hour, talk some college football with Eric, who knows props and college football about as well as anybody. So excited to chat with him. But let's talk college football right here in this segment and dive into the Heisman Trophy market, one of the most prestigious awards in sports. And this year we got a lot of great candidates to win the award, and we got some good odds on a lot of really good players. Right now, CJ Carr, the quarterback for Notre Dame, is your favorite at plus 750. Arch Manning, Texas's quarterback, is plus 800. Darian Mensah, who transferred into Miami, is 11-1. Trinidad Chambliss, who is back at Ole Miss, 12-1. Jeremiah Smith, Julian Sayin, both at Ohio State, 13-1. Dante Moore is also 13-1 for the Oregon Ducks. Josh Hoover, who comes over from TCU to Indiana, 15-1. Gunnar Stockton at Georgia, 20-1. Keelan Russell, 22-1 at Alabama. And then Jaden Mayava at USC and Sam Levitt, LSU's quarterback, are 25-1 and down the board. And we'll talk about some guys down the board here in a little bit. But those group of favorites, especially towards the top, the four quarterbacks that are favored to win the award: CJ Carr at Notre Dame, Arch Manning at Texas, Darian Mensah at Miami, and Trinidad Chambliss at Ole Miss. I think this is a year to bet against the favorite, quite frankly, in CJ Carr. And it's not because CJ Carr isn't a good quarterback. He is. He was a true freshman last year. He had 2 first-round running backs to hand it off to in Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. Their schedule, though, is just so favorable this year, and they really only have 2 games that give you cause for concern. That's at BYU and home against Miami. We use the phrase all the time, Heisman moments, right? Every year a player wins the award. You can look back at a certain game. You can look back at a certain play, and you refer to that as the Heisman moment. For Fernando Mendoza, it was probably, the touchdown against Penn State when he led him 95 yards down the field, and that Indiana receiver, Omar Cooper, put his foot in the end zone. Or the Big Ten championship game against Ohio State when he threw a touchdown to the corner of the end zone to Elijah Sherratt. Had a couple different moments. CJ Carr this year only plays those 2 big games against Miami and against BYU. So I think he's a bad favorite because not only is he going to not have as lot of opportunities as some of these other guys, he's going to be resting a lot in the fourth quarter. And also, he's not playing in a lot of big marquee games early on in the season. Arch Manning and Julian Sayin are going to play each other in week 2. I promise you, if Arch Manning and Texas beat Ohio State and Arch Manning plays well in that game, I don't care what CJ Carr does the first 2 weeks of the season, Arch Manning is going to be the favorite. It's just the way it's going to be. Because his name is Arch Manning, because he plays at Texas, and because they beat Ohio State, he's going to be the favorite. CJ Carr could throw for 12 touchdowns and 1,000 yards in the first 2 weeks. Arch Manning would still be your favorite if he beats Ohio State and plays well in that game. So I don't think CJ Carr is a great bet right now. I think if you like Carr, maybe you wait until the middle of the season because they don't play BYU or Miami until late October, early November. Arch Manning is definitely interesting. He was the favorite last year, and I think a lot of people are sharing the same thoughts about Arch. This year is probably what we're going to get out of Arch, what we thought we were going to get last year. His offensive line's a lot better. Sark went into the transfer portal and got him a couple of really good receivers, including Cam Coleman, who comes over from Auburn. And unlike CJ Carr, Arch is going to play in a lot of massive games this season. He's going to get that Ohio State game. He's going to play A&M. He's going to play LSU. He's going to play Tennessee. Like, he's got massive games. And again, his name is Arch Manning. Let's not act like that doesn't mean a lot. So if Arch plays well, he really actually should be the favorite over CJ Carr. And the fact that he does have that Ohio State game in week 2, I actually think he should probably be the favorite because Texas is going to be a favorite in that game. And like I said, if they win and he plays well, he's going to be the favorite. Darian Mensah is 11-1, Miami's quarterback. I talked about this last week. I think Darian Mensah and Miami might have the best trio in college football in terms of running back, quarterback, running back, and wide receiver. With him at QB, Mark Fletcher comes back at running back, and Malachi Toney, who's going to be their wide receiver and one of the best in college football. Miami's offense is going to be lethal this season. The issue with Mensah is 2 things. The first is that his price is, you could have gotten Mensah at like 20-1. Now he's at 11-1. So me personally, I kind of hate betting a guy like that when you knew what his number once was, and now it's all the way down to 11-1 without him even playing a snap of football yet. And we still got like 2 months to go until the season starts. So I don't love the price. I also don't love the fact that he's playing for Mario Cristobal. And if you know anything about Mario, even going back to his Oregon days, he always loses games that he shouldn't lose. If you're going to win the Heisman Trophy, you got to beat good teams and you got to avoid losing to bad teams. You can lose games. You just have to normally lose to good teams and put up good numbers in those type of games. If Miami's going to lose this year, they do play at Notre Dame, which is going to be tough. They're going to be a dog in that one. They do play at Clemson, so they could drop those 2 games. But if they lose another one of those games, they're going to be a big favorite. And chances are Mensah's probably going to have some turnovers and he's not going to play well. So I don't like the price, and I just don't love the situation that he's in at Miami with Cristobal, who normally loses games that they shouldn't lose. Trinidad Shambliss is intriguing at 12-1. No, Kiffin's not there anymore, but Ole Miss is still going to have a really good offense. He's probably the most electric quarterback in college football with this combo of offense, with this combo of throwing and running. He's a terrific athlete, and he is a highlight reel waiting to happen. Playing in the SEC, he's going to get many of marquee opportunities. I talked about how Ohio State plays Texas in week 2. Well, Ole Miss plays LSU in week 3, where Lane Kiffin returns to Oxford. So there are going to be a lot of people watching that game, and you better believe if Trinidad Shambliss plays well and Ole Miss wins, his odds are also going to plummet down. So he could be a good option right now as well, because the odds might not be great 3 weeks, 4 weeks into the season. Then you have the 2 Ohio State guys, Jeremiah Smith and Julian Sayin. Smith, of course, the wide receiver, Sayin, the quarterback. When you have 2 guys like this on the same team that are this low priced, it's tough for me to really bet either of them, because if you're Jeremiah Smith, obviously, if you're Julian Sayin, if Jeremiah Smith has a ridiculous season, it's going to hurt Sayin, because Jeremiah Smith is on the receiving end of all those touchdowns that he's throwing and all those yards that he's throwing. Whereas if Julian Sayin is throwing to the other receivers on the team, that definitely benefits Julian Sayin. If I were to bet one of those Ohio State guys, I'd probably bet Jeremiah Smith. He's going to get his yards. He's going to get his touchdowns. And there's, he's a heck of a player. He's already got the cachet. He's got the name brand going into it. So I like Jeremiah Smith at 13-1. Then we get into kind of the next crop of names in the Heisman market. And this is where I would attack right now if I was betting Heisman futures. Dante Moore at 13-1. His price has dropped a little bit. I think he's the best quarterback in college football. He does have some big games. He's at Ohio State. They do play Michigan. My problem with Dante Moore this season, the weapons are great. Receivers are great. Running backs are great. But he loses his offensive coordinator in Will Stein, who's now the head coach at Kentucky. And Will Stein worked magic there in Eugene. He did wonders on Bo Nix. He was great with Dante Moore last year. Now that you're hiring from within his OC, even though I think Dante Moore now is already accomplished enough and he's already mature enough as a prospect and as a QB where he necessarily doesn't need as much of that coaching, definitely hurts that he's not having his OC there and he's got a new guy coming in, elevated from within the program. So that shies me off of Dante Moore, even though I do think he's the best QB in the country. So the fact that he's priced right now as the 5th highest QB, the 6th highest QB, you could definitely argue that you're getting some value there on Dante Moore. But the next 3 names are where I would look. Josh Hoover, 15-1. Indiana's quarterback. Oh, but Fernando Mendoza won it last year. They're not going to give the Heisman Trophy to 2 straight Indiana quarterbacks. Well, when Lincoln Riley had all those QBs at Oklahoma, they gave the Heisman Trophy to those guys. And I understand Oklahoma's philosophy. Their teams are a little bit different. They wanted to beat you in shootouts. But Indiana just demolishes people, and they score a lot of points. And Josh Hoover at TCU was one of my favorite quarterbacks. He's awesome to watch. He's a gunslinger. He can make all the throws. Turnovers was his biggest issue, and he didn't win enough big games. Well, now you go play for Kirk Cignetti, where all Indiana does is win, and all they do is not turn the ball over. I think it's a perfect situation for Josh Hoover, and I think it's built in a little bit, the fact that Indiana did win the Heisman last year with Mendoza. I think they got a great shot at winning it again. So I like Hoover at 15-1. Gunnar Stockton at 20-1, Georgia's quarterback. Kirby's never had a QB that has won the award or has ever been in New York to potentially win the award. I think he could have that this year. Gunnar Stockton, when we were heading into like late October, early November this past season, was in the mix to win it until Georgia kind of fell off. But they got a great offensive line. He's as good as a quarterback as Kirby's had in a while. He can throw for a lot of yards and touchdowns. He can also run for touchdowns. I think Gunnar Stockton's going to have a big season. And Georgia's schedule is tough because it's in the SEC, but it's not nearly as tough as it's been the last few years. And I like the price on Stockton. I also like Keelan Russell at Alabama, 22-1. I just like the upside. Bama's going to play in a lot of marquee games. They're going to play in difficult games. But from what I'm hearing from my people in Bama is Keelan Russell is drawing comparisons to Bryce Young, who won the Heisman Trophy. Like, there's that kind of upside with Keelan Russell. And if Bama is better than a lot of people probably think they're going to be going into the season, if they win the SEC, if they make the college football playoff, Russell's going to be in the mix. I think he's going to start the season. I think his upside is enough of taking a shot with, so I like him at 22-1. Some other guys down the board that I would maybe take a shot with, I'm a big fan of Byron Brown, Auburn's quarterback. He comes over from South Florida with his head coach, Alex Golish, who's going to be in Auburn for his first season. But Brown's a tank, man. I mean, he can run. He's difficult to bring down. He can throw. I just love that dual threat upside. And Auburn, again, brutal schedule. They're in the SEC. They probably got to win 9 or 10 games. If they do that, though, Brown's going to be in the mix. I'm a big fan of him, and I'm a big fan of Golish as a head coach. So I think he's interesting. Rocco Becht, Penn State's quarterback, also comes over from Ohio State with Matt Campbell to Happy Valley. And Beck's a gamer. You know, he's tough. He's a good runner as well. He can make throws. And I'm a fan of Penn State this season. I think they could win double-digit games. I think they could go to the playoff. And if that happens again, Rocco Becht could be in the mix. So those are the two guys probably down the board I would look at, would be Byron Brown and Rocco Becht if I had to make any long shot plays. But the three guys I really like this year, Josh Hoover, Gunnar Stockton, and Keelan Russell. And if I had to make a play on one of them, I would probably go with Georgia quarterback Gunnar Stockton at 20-1. That would be the guy that I would look at to win the Heisman Trophy. All right, we're going to take a quick time out here. You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports. When we come back, Joe Malfa going to join the program and talk some World Cup.
Welcome back to You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
PJ Glasser back here with you, filling in for Nick Kostos. You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports. Coming up at the top of hour number 3, ESPN released a top 10 quarterback in the NFL list. We will dive into that. I'll talk about their list, and then I'll give out my top 10. Eric Froton also will join the show in 40 minutes to talk some college football. And then we will wrap everything up with live bets from the Open out in Royal Birkdale and Sunday's World Cup final between Spain and Argentina. And that is where we will go now with my buddy Joe Malfa, who joins us. Give Joe a follow on X at MalfaJ98. Play-by-play for ESPN, NWSL, and MLS as well. And it's time for the world's top stars to go head-to-head on the pitch. Grab this Odds Boost token, join the excitement, and make your World's Game moment. Activate your token for any World's Game bet, and you'll receive a bigger payout if your bet wins. Joe, we got Spain and Argentina. I thought we were going to get Spain and England, and we should have, because I'm still not over what Thomas Tuchel decided to do. Have you still gotten over what he did in the last 30 minutes plus of that game?
It's funny. It's like if you had somebody who had never watched the Bills under Sean McDermott before, and then like last year finally decided to watch the Bills under Sean McDermott, and to your point, you're just astounded by what Tuchel did, and you can't get over it. But then like there's just a history of this where Tuchel, year after year in Champions League with his previous teams, this is just the norm for him. He takes a 1-goal lead in a big game, and then he does that. So it was fun watching everybody else like learn what a lot of us already knew from his previous jobs. It's just mind-numbing. Like you could do that if you're playing against, I don't know, I don't mean disrespect here, but you could do that if you're playing against Egypt or if you're playing against Switzerland. Like, you can't do that against Messi and Argentina, and he learned that the hard way. So
he kind of did that against Mexico, but everybody was just so focused on the fact they had 10 guys out there and they won that they were cool with it, but still crazy that he did that against Argentina, like you said. So Argentina, Spain in the final, Joe. Spain's the favorite to lift the cup. They were the pre-tournament favorite. They looked like it against France. Tactically, like, are there any edges that you give Argentina against Spain? Are there any ways that they can exploit that defense that has only given up 1 goal so far the entire tournament?
It's tough, and a lot of the conversation last week going into the Spain-France game was about styles making fights, and it was interesting. A lot of people coming out of that game were surprised that Spain won. I was a little surprised at maybe how it happened and that they shut out France, but to your point, they were co-favorites to begin the tournament with France. With France massacring teams and Spain kind of squeaking through some games, the odds shifted as the tournament went on. I think France got at one point up to plus 150 while France was down to plus 600. So there was a gap then. So it was maybe a little bit surprising by that regard, but it should have been a surprise because Spain is just such a well-oiled machine. And to your specific question, I don't know that there's an area that Argentina is better than them specifically other than magic. Like this feels like the Chiefs run from a couple years ago, like we've talked about, where there just always seemed to be a way that they found a way, whether it was against the Bills or against the Ravens. Like they just found a way, but they were never really the better team in any of those matchups. This feels like what this is. I'm not saying Argentina can't win this game. They, of course, could win this game. But to your specific question, I don't give them the edge anywhere, which makes it hard to pick them. But then they've got that magic factor where they just keep finding a way. So it's tough. It's tough.
It's what I talked about earlier in the show, Joe. It's like, I feel like everybody feels the same way. Spain's way better, but it's just like betting against Nick Saban or Michael Jordan or Tom Brady. Like, it's terrifying to bet against Messi, and I totally understand. But again, just kind of looking at X's and O's, like as somebody who knows soccer as well as you do, what is it that Spain does so well that makes them so tough? What did they do so well against France? And what is Argentina going to have to deal with if they want to try and win this game?
It's all the midfield. That midfield is overwhelming from Spain. And every nation, I think that's something people have learned, like every 4 years when the World Cup comes around, even the casuals, like you can jump right back in, and you sort of know the way Spain plays. It's going to be this massive passing style, measured, calm. You sort of know the way certain countries play. France is always going to be kind of like a running gun team. They just have their national styles that follow them. And Spain's always been this way. But it feels like this Spanish team specifically, and maybe lacks the attacking potency that the 2010 champion team had, or that era where they won Euro in 08, World Cup in 10, and Euro again in 2012, that run of 3 straight trophies. That team had more attacking prowess. This team is just so calm and so buttoned up, and it starts with Rodri in the midfield. He won the Ballon d'Or 2 years ago. sort of a surprise that a defensive holding midfielder could win that, but he was just so good every step of the way for Spain in their run to Euro and for Man City at the club level. He sets the tempo. He tore his ACL shortly thereafter. People wondered if he'd ever get back to what he was. He has, and he dictates everything for Spain. That midfield just controls the game. It constricts opposing teams. They control the possession. Usually it's up around 65, 70%, depending on the opponent. And the problem is, if they score the first goal on you, they don't do what England did, where they just go back into a shell and invite the pressure. They're going to keep possessing the ball. That defense is so good, so tight. Everything just meshes well together with the midfield control, the possession they're defending. And then, oh, by the way, like they have Lamine Yamal, who hasn't had a great tournament, but can still do something special at a moment's notice. And Oyarzabal, who's maybe one of the clutchest strikers in the game up top. So it's just so well constructed. If Spain goes on to win this and you put them against the last few World Cup winners head to head, Argentina of 22, France of 18, Germany of 14, the last 3 World Cup winners against this Spain team, all those teams are probably better, and you probably have them as favorites over this Spain team. But this Spain team is just so constructed to win in an efficient way, and it's just so tough to bring them down because of that.
Yeah, it really is. Argentina's going to have their hands full dealing with that. Joe, I always wonder in any game, like if there's a correlation between a side and maybe an over or an under, right? And I think about the teams this tournament that have given Spain issue, whether it was Cape Verde when it was a 0-0 draw, Portugal was 0-0 going into stoppage time, Belgium was 1-1. Like, it feels like if you want to hang around with Spain because of how tough their defense is, it's probably just going to be low scoring. For the people out there that like Argentina, and there will be a bunch that do you feel like if you like them in regulation, if you like them to lift the cup or whatever it may be, then the under's probably the way? Or because of that offensive firepower and how great they've been in the final 20 minutes of their games, you think once again, if they win, it's because they're scoring a goal or two late and winning the match?
It's interesting. Like, this game, to me, to your question as far as there a correlation, there would be, like, if you think Argentina is going to lift the cup, there's probably more than 2 goals in this game. Probably gets to 2-1 Argentina, something to that effect. But in the nature of it being a final, this is a trend that I would encourage people to look into if you're trying to find different numbers you can look at. 2022 went to penalties. 2018, France drubbed Croatia. That was the biggest mismatch in a final that we probably ever had. 2014 went to extra time. 2010 went to extra time. 2006 went to penalties. You're seeing a theme here. All but one final since 2006 went to extra time or penalties. You know the way Spain plays, that it's very controlled, very measured. I believe the number is sitting at 2.5 right now with the juice on the under. I see it on my screen. I just peeked over. Sorry. That there's a reason that it's minus 162 on the under. It feels like Argentina's best case scenario. Squeak out 1-0. Maybe if it's 1-0, you add a second goal late when Spain pushes. But if Argentina is going to lift the cup, it feels like it's 1-1 to extra time, and then whatever happens, happens. So if you're looking for a correlation, there is, depending on the book you're using and whatnot, some places will allow you to parlay 90-minute tie, Argentina win the cup. I've done that at different games before. That would be where my mind is at if you're looking for the best number possible, parlaying a 90-minute tie and then Argentina to lift the cup, if that's where your mind's at.
Yeah, I like that. Talking with Joe Malfa here on You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM. Give Joe a follow on X at MalfaJ98. Joe, who do you like to end up winning the World Cup final, and a score prediction if you have one?
Yeah, I have my head and my heart play here. Both side with Spain. I'm rooting personally for Argentina and Messi and capping off this just crazy run. My head play is Spain in 90 minutes. I just think that they're going to find a goal in this game, and they're going to win it probably 1-0 in 90 minutes or something to that effect. To lift the trophy, if you wanted to do that, you're going to give up some of the juice a little bit, but still Spain. I think Spain is just the efficient team. They match up so well with Argentina in terms of if they get a lead, they're going to hold it, unlike Egypt, unlike England. Like, they are a team that you cannot play from behind against, and Argentina has been falling behind in these games. You cannot fall behind against this Spain team. So I'm looking at Spain to win in 90. I think it was plus 130 the last I looked at it. The heart play, I said the head play. The head play is just Spain winning in 90. The heart play, and you get crazy odds on this, is 1-0 correct score Spain, Lamine Yamal, the goal scorer. It just feels, PJ, in this universe where a picture exists of Messi bathing a 4-month-old Lamine Yamal, it just feels like Spain winning this game on a Lamine Yamal goal is the perfect poetic end to Messi's World Cup career and the passing of the torch. So that's the heart play. I sprinkled a little bit on that just because it feels like it could be written in the stars, just because that bathtub picture exists. That's the heart play. The head play is Spain in 90.
I love it. We love a good narrative play, Joe, so you don't have to sell me on that. I absolutely love it. So you don't think there's any chance Messi comes back at all? If he wins, he rides off to the sunset, no questions. But if they lose, any chance he comes back or none?
No shot. I mean, in Argentina's like traditional song that the fans are singing throughout this whole tournament, there's a line in the song that says, "For Messi's last one." All the players are treating it like Messi's last one. I don't necessarily know that he's done in an Argentina jersey after this game. Copa America is going to be in 2 years. It's going to be hosted in all likelihood in the United States again, and it feels like that might be okay. He'd be 41. He's still in good shape. It feels like he might be on that team as like a substitute type player, come in second half, impact the game if you need to, and be the leader, and finally pass towards Nico Paz as their next up-and-coming player that with that profile. It feels like maybe you bring Messi to that tournament as a mentor and let Nico Paz be the starter and Messi be the backup, but that's 2 years from now. Getting 4 more years to another World Cup feels impossible. I can't rule it out entirely. I would put it at like 2%, but this is probably your last chance to watch him in a World Cup game, yes.
Joe, we got about a minute left. Third place game, France and England. I'll get your plays here in just a quick second. But in like 30 seconds, which team do you think is kicking themselves more watching the final at home on Sunday, France or England?
Oh, it's England for sure. To blow a lead like that in the manner in which they did. France just got outclassed. Like, you could tip your cap, and Spain has their number. It's 3 straight years. Euro, UEFA Nations League, and now World Cup. 3 straight years, Spain has beaten France in a semifinal. They just have their number, so you tip your cap. It's frustrating, but England to choke like that, they're going to hate watch this weekend.
And then for anybody out there that wants to bet the game, motivation's definitely going to be in question. Who shows up, who wants to be there, all the stars going to play. But is there any angle you would have for France-England?
I think England's kicking themselves more. France is a better team. France's B team would have been a top 5 team in this World Cup. So if there's roster rotation, they still have a lot of firepower. I'm looking at the over for some fun. It's 3.5. I'm looking at France money line in that game. There should be a lot of goals. France has the firepower. Even if they do rest some guys because the tournament's over, they still have the firepower with the B team to go do it.
Love it. Joe Malfa, play-by-play, ESPN, NWSL, MLS. Great stuff on the World Cup. Give him a follow on X, at MalfaJ98. Always good seeing you, Joe. Enjoy the final 2 games, my friend. We'll talk again soon.
Can't wait. Appreciate you.
Good stuff, Joe Malfa. We come back, third and final hour. You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM. Who are my top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL? I'll let you know on the other side.
Welcome back to You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
This is the Power Hour. You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM here on Westwood One Sports. Final hour of the show, and it's a good one for you. You can watch us and listen to us on YouTube /at the Kostos, Sirius XM channel 375, and you can listen to us on the Westwood One app as well. Eric Froton going to join us 25 minutes. Going to talk some college football with him. He's the lead college fantasy football analyst for Yahoo Sports. Excited to chat it up with Eric. And then we will wrap up the show. My favorite plays for the Open Championship heading into the weekend and final thoughts on the World Cup as well. But this segment I've been looking forward to all show to kick off hour number 3. ESPN earlier this week released an article of the top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL, according to executives, scouts, coaches, and they listed out who they thought the top 10 quarterbacks were coming in to this upcoming season. Josh Allen was their number 1 quarterback. Patrick Mahomes was 2. Matt Stafford was 3. Burrow 4. Lamar Jackson 5. Dak Prescott 6. Justin Herbert 7. Drake May 8. Jared Goff 9. And Caleb Williams comes in at 10, with honorable mention Sam Darnold, Brock Purdy, Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, all those sorts of guys. Now, obviously, these lists are always subjective. You talk to 10 different people, you're going to get some different variation of a top 10. I feel really good, though, about my top 10 quarterback list. I feel really strong about my top 10. I'm definitely going to have some things in there that probably not everybody agrees with, but that's okay. We all see football differently. We all see quarterback play differently, and that's the beauty of these kinds of lists. So without further ado, this is PJ Glasser's top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. Kicking things off at number 10 will be New England Patriots quarterback Drake May. Now, this might be too low for a lot of people. There are a lot of people that love Drake May. He was in the Super Bowl this past season in year 2. He's got very good upside. He's got great talent. I'm not willing to say Drake May is overrated, but there are a lot of people that think he's a great quarterback already, when in reality, he's just a good quarterback. He's a good quarterback, folks. He's played 2 seasons. His rookie year was not good. He had some good moments towards the end. He showed flashes that he was definitely the Patriots quarterback of the future, but it wasn't a rookie season like Jaden Daniels had or CJ Stroud had. He was fine. Second year, obviously a big jump, led by the easiest schedule in NFL history. He didn't play great against any top tier teams, and he was carried through the playoffs by that defense and all those turnovers. When he played up to his level of the competition in the Super Bowl against Seattle, he looked horrendous. They didn't really do a whole lot to give him weapons the first 2 seasons, but now they went out and got A.J. Brown for him. So they got him. At this point, is A.J. still a number 1 wide receiver? We'll see. He's still pretty good. He reunites with Mike Vrabel. I think the Patriots are going to regress this season, and I just think it's too early to declare Drake May as the next big thing. There are a lot of people that already think he's a top 5, top 6 score. Like, stop it. He's number 10. Okay. He's good. He's not great. Let's see more. Let's see what happens when the schedule gets tougher. Let's see what happens when he's playing more consistently good teams week after week. Because last year, just about every team he played that was 500 or better, he threw an interception against. He had a turnover against. So let's see what happens when the schedule gets a little bit tougher. Drake May for me, number 10. Caleb Williams is going to come in at number 9 for me. Caleb, the talent jumps off the page. Guy can make every throw, Heisman Trophy winner, number one pick in a terrific system with Ben Johnson, great offensive line. He's only going to continue to get better. And the reason I put Caleb ahead of Drake May is because I trust Caleb a little bit more. Caleb has proven the clutch gene. He's proven that he can win games in the fourth quarter. Now, a lot of those games he had no business winning, and I don't know if that's necessarily sustainable. I'd like to see a little bit more consistency, but man, he was the king of the fourth quarter comeback this year. And there were so many games that the Bears had no business winning that he won. You got to give him credit for that. And again, with Ben Johnson as his head coach, the sky's the limit. They got the good young receivers. They got a great offensive line. Caleb should continue to get better year after year, but it's still early. I'm not ready to declare him a superstar. I'm not ready to declare him the face of the franchise just yet for Chicago. Much like Drake May, he's a good quarterback. He's not a great quarterback just yet, but because of what he showed in the fourth quarter last year, and he was better against good teams than Drake May was, I'll put Caleb Williams at number 9. The number 8 quarterback in the NFL is Justin Herbert. We need to write books. We need to do documentaries on Justin Herbert's PR team because there are people that still think he is 3 for 3. That there are still people that think he is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. It is truly incredible. Is he a top 5 talent in the NFL? Without a doubt. We were talking with Mike Tannenbaum earlier, and he said Justin Herbert was built in the lab. Can't disagree with that. Guy's what, 6'6", can run. He's got a bazooka for an arm. I mean, it's like Justin Herbert, much like Caleb Williams, makes a play or two every game where you're just like, damn, that was nice. I mean, the guy is an absolute freak. But if you watch the 2 playoff games for Justin Herbert, have you seen how horrendous he has looked against the Texans and how horrendous he has looked against the Patriots in those 2 games? I know the offensive line was beat up last year. I get it. He doesn't have a true number 1 receiver. How many excuses are we going to make for this guy? If he's as good as so many people think he is, then you should not be as bad as he's been in his 2 playoff games. You should at least be competitive. You should be willing your teams to victory. Mike T, again, we had him early on in the show. He's high on the Chargers this season. He thinks they're going to win that division. He thinks they could compete in the AFC. I don't. Do you, the listener? Do you trust Justin Herbert at all to win any kind of big game? Would you trust him at all to go against Josh Allen in the playoffs? Would you trust him against Pat Mahomes in a big game? Would you trust him against any of these teams? I think Mike McDaniel is a great hire as OC. And I think Jim Harbaugh is a very good coach. I think the Chargers have a lot of really good foundational pieces, including those 2 guys up front in Alton Slater. But it all comes down to Herbert. And this was my issue with him at Oregon, too. In the big moments, he just does not show up. And at some point, I mean, even in the regular season, like show up for some big games. You know, the playoffs are one thing. We've only watched you play in 2 of those. Show up in some big-time regular season games. I want to see a Justin Herbert game where he throws for 4 touchdowns and 400 yards, and we're just all like, oh my God, he was incredible. Haven't gotten enough of those yet. Again, the talent is there. He has the potential to be a top 5 quarterback. He's not there yet. Justin Herbert, my number 8. This is where I might differ from a lot of people. Jaden Daniels is going to be number 7 for me. And I think this year, Jaden Daniels is going to remind people why he led Washington to the NFC Championship game 2 years ago. It's simple for me. We all know Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, and Drake May are all in the same draft class. So why is Jaden Daniels better than Caleb Williams and Drake May? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Both of those guys, all 3 of those guys have essentially had similar careers. They all had 1 year where they were very good, and they all had another year where they were just okay. Jaden Daniels' rookie year, maybe the best ever, all-timer. Caleb Williams last year, very good. Drake May last year, very good. Caleb Williams and Drake May, their rookie seasons, Drake May or Jaden Daniels last year, bothered by injuries, not very good. So if all 3 of those guys have essentially had the same career through the first 2 seasons. Who had the best season of all 3? It was Jaden's rookie year. It's not even close. Yes, Drake May made the Super Bowl. He got there because of his defense. Come on. Did he get there because of Drake May? Were you watching Patriots games saying, man, Drake May is putting this team on his back? He is the reason that they are in the Super Bowl. You were saying that when you were watching Jaden Daniels 2 years ago with the Commanders, when he went on the road and beat Tampa, and then he went on the road and beat Detroit, the number 1 seed. That's why Washington was in the NFC Championship. It's because of how good he was his rookie season. He's a great athlete. He's super accurate. He makes great decisions. He's got a good receiver in Terry McLaurin, who's still got some good years left in him. Everybody's high on this Antonio Williams rookie out of Clemson. So it's simple for me. If you're comparing the 3, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, and Drake May, all 3 guys have had 1 year where they were and another year where they were really good. Well, whose guy's really good year was it was Jaden Daniels. And I think Jaden's better than Justin Herbert because I've seen him already do it in big games. I trust him more in big games. I'll take Jaden Daniels at number 7. Number 6. We'll stay in that division and we'll go with Dak Prescott. I love Dak. I love Dak. I've always loved Dak. I think he's a gamer. I think he totally gets disrespected. I think he's criminally underrated. He is a terrific QB. I asked Mike Tannenbaum earlier in the show. We all know who the top 4 or 5 quarterbacks are in the NFL, and people have their own variation of that, and I certainly have my own variation of that. But outside of those 5, who's your 6? Is it Dak? Is it Herbert? Is it Drake May? Is it Caleb Williams? Is it Jared Goff, who didn't make my list? For me, it's Dak. Dak is terrific. What he does at the line of scrimmage, how beautiful his deep ball is, how potent that Cowboys offense is. I understand Dak hasn't gotten it done in the playoffs just yet. But I love what Dallas has done this offseason. They've revamped their secondary. Their pass rush should be better. Their offense is still going to be elite. I think Schottenheimer's a pretty decent head coach. And I think Dak's a terrific quarterback. I think he's got a great shot at winning MVP this year. Always been a big Dak fan. I think we view Justin Herbert like we should view Dak Prescott. Number 6 for me. All right, and then we get to the top 5. Now, Matt Stafford was 3 on ESPN's list. I'm putting Matt Stafford at number 5 on my list. Stafford's a Hall of Famer. He's a terrific quarterback. He's still one of the best in the NFL. He won MVP last season. But the guy's pushing 40. I mean, and he's got arguably the best coach in the NFL in McVay. He's got arguably the best receiver in the NFL in Puka. And any good quarterback is going to be in great situations, whether they got a great head coach, whether they got good weapons, good offensive line, whatever it may be. So it's not a huge knock on Stafford, but it also doesn't hurt. There would be a lot of quarterbacks that would benefit being in the Rams system. And let's be honest, Stafford really has to rely a ton on his offensive line because he's just not mobile. So if Stafford ever plays a team with a good pass rush, or if Stafford ever has big injuries to his offensive line, he's going to get neutralized. He just isn't as mobile as a lot of these other great quarterbacks that are in this top 10 list. So even though he's still a great QB, he won MVP last year, his team's favored to win the Super Bowl, and he's one of the best in the business. For me, he's still number 5. So my top 4 in some variation is going to be Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Joe Burrow. And again, a lot of people differ on this top 4. And for those of you right now that are listening on radio, I'm giving out my top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL. So far, my top 10 list, Drake May at 10, Caleb Williams at 9, Justin Herbert at 8, Jaden Daniels at 7, Dak at 6, and Stafford at 4. Joe Burrow is going to be number 4 for me. Joe Burrow's a terrific quarterback. He's probably the closest thing that we have to Drew Brees or Peyton Manning, one of those old school quarterbacks in terms of just how he processes, how quickly he sees the defense, how great of a decision maker he is. But what's that old saying? Your best ability is availability. And Joe Burrow, more often than not, he's just not out there for the Bengals. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, as great as Burrow is, don't you have to knock him a little bit for Joe Flacco coming off the street on a Thursday night, playing a division rival, and just slinging the ball all over the yard with those two receivers in Jamar Chase and T. Higgins? Again, a lot of great quarterbacks are in great situations. It's not Joe Burrow's fault that Cincinnati drafted great receivers in Higgins and Jamar Chase. But there are a lot of quarterbacks that would be really good if they had those two wide receivers. A lot of quarterbacks. I just personally feel like Joe Burrow, of the top four guys, has always had the most help. And I think he would be the guy I would feel the least confident in doing more with less. I could be wrong. You could disagree. But I would trust Mahomes, Lamar, and Josh Allen more to do more with less than I would Joe Burrow. And, we saw him with LSU have one of the all-time great college football teams, and now he's with the Bengals and he's got two great receivers. We've really never seen Joe Burrow kind of have to win for the most part with just terrible receivers, and we might never see it. I would just like the other three guys more so to do more with less. Joe Burrow, number 4. Josh Allen's number 3, boys and girls. ESPN had him at number 1, but Josh Allen is going to be number 3. Josh Allen's built in the lab. Guy's a freak of nature. I mean, come on. He's never missed a start in his career. He's built like a tank. His 4th and 1 is unstoppable. It's unguardable. I just personally would rather have Lamar Jackson and Pat Mahomes. I'll tell you why in a little bit. It's no knock on Josh Allen. I would just rather have the other two. And again, a lot of people will put him at number 1 and number 2. He can pretty much beat any player, any quarterback in this league outside of Pat Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Josh has always had a great offensive line. When he had Diggs there, he was great. But I'll put Josh Allen at number 3. More so the case for Josh Allen at number 3 is because putting Lamar Jackson at number 2. And I still think Lamar is the second best quarterback in football. And there are a couple reasons why. I want you to think about any quarterback in the history of football, any single one that you want, that has ever laced them up and that has ever played an NFL game. Is there any quarterback ever that you would take over Lamar's A-plus game? If every QB ever on planet Earth played their A++ game, is any QB's A++ game better than Lamar Jackson's? The question is no. It's just not. His combo of running and passing is better than anybody ever. Sure, Brady's the GOAT. Sure, Mahomes has won more Super Bowls. Marino, Rodgers, these guys are better passers. But the combo of running and passing, Lamar's A++ game is still the best. It's the reason why he's got the 3 highest rated QBR games of all time or the 3 highest passer rating games of all time. We don't talk enough about that season 2 years ago when he lost to Josh Allen an MVP and he should have won because of how great he is. He's held to a different standard than everybody else. And that's how you know that he's better than Josh Allen, because we don't hold Josh Allen to the same extent, to the same way that we hold Lamar Jackson. We just don't. Lamar has a bad game, everybody's ready to dump on him. Josh Allen has a bad game. Oh, it was just an off day for Josh, but he'll be fine. Lamar is treated a lot of the same way that LeBron is. People were so wrong about Lamar. They like Josh more, just like they like Jordan more than LeBron. And I like Jordan more than LeBron. I think Jordan's the GOAT. But LeBron just gets held to a different standard. If he's not having a triple-double in his prime every night, people are coming for his head. Just like if Lamar has one bad game, people are coming for his head. And I want you to ask yourself why they do that. Why do they expect so much out of Lamar? It's because of how good he is. Oh, but PJ, he's 3-5 in the playoffs. 3-6 if you want to count the Steelers game from last year. Is it his fault that Tyler Lute misses a field goal? Did you watch the fourth quarter when he spinned out of the sack? Is it his fault that Mark Andrews is fumbling the ball all over the place and can't catch a pass? And then don't even get me started on the coaching with John Harbaugh and how he has failed Lamar in the playoffs in many games. That AFC Championship game they lost to Kansas City, they ran the ball 6 times. They had the greatest rushing attack maybe in the history of football. They ran the ball 6 times against Kansas City. There's a reason why the Ravens in 2023 and 2004 were like DVOA darlings while they're all-time teams. It's because of number 8, man. I'm sorry. He's just better than Josh Allen, and Josh Allen's a hell of a quarterback. I'll take Lamar at number 2. And then Pat Mahomes is number 1. I mean, he's still the best. He's still the best. I know Nick Kostos has talked about this, but Mahomes is still number 1. He's still the guy that you fear the most. The best compliment I can give Pat Mahomes is that if you want to win one game, you're taking him. And also, if you're playing against him, he's the QB that you fear the most at all times. So that's my top 10 list right there. Pat Mahomes 1, Lamar Jackson 2, Josh Allen 3, Burrow 4, Stafford 5, Dak 6, Jaden Daniels 7, Justin Herbert 8, Caleb Williams 9, and Drake May 10. Those are your top 10 quarterbacks in the NFL heading into next season. From the NFL to college football, Eric Froton going to join us next. Really excited to talk some college football with him, lead college fantasy football analyst for Yahoo Sports. Stick right here. You better you bet. Westwood One Sports.
Welcome back to You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
Welcome back. You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM. PJ Glasser filling in for Nick Kostos, and really excited for our next guest, Eric Froton. He is Yahoo's fantasy lead college fantasy football analyst. Yahoo Sports bring the excitement of college football into fantasy with the launch of Yahoo College Fantasy Football, a new season-long game built specifically for today's game and today's fan. Yahoo College Fantasy Football gives fans new way to engage with the sport, its stars, and the teams they follow all season long. Fans can sign up for Yahoo College Fantasy Football now at yahoofantasy.com/college. Drafts open August 3rd with scoring starting when week 1 kicks off September 3rd. Eric, I'm so excited for this, man. I'm sure you are too, but just how great is what you guys are doing over at Yahoo, and the fact that we're going to have college football fantasy is just going to be awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We're extremely thrilled. Everybody in the college fantasy football community has been waiting for this. I've been waiting personally 25 years for a major American media platform that is behind fantasy football to finally embrace college fantasy football, and that is exactly what Yahoo has done. So very excited for what we have in 2026.
Absolutely love it. So again, the drafts will start August 3rd. So we still got a couple weeks. Season starts week 1, September 3rd. You're diving into the weeds. You're looking at these teams, the skill position players. Who are like a guy or two that you are targeting that in all your drafts, you're going to make sure that you get this season?
Yeah, well, I mean, in terms of, and to be sure, this is a Power 4 only sort of landscape. So while, the group of 6, we do appreciate that. This is what we're focusing on for the time being, because, hey, there's still 68 Power 4 teams, okay? We've got plenty of room to be able to explore, for the NFL converts out there, 32 teams in the NFL, 68. So we're more than twice the player pool that we're dealing with. I'm looking at a couple of different players. We'll start off. I'll go one from each different position. On the quarterback front, rushing is so important in this landscape. It's 4-point passing touchdowns, not 6 points, which you may be accustomed to with NFL. But that really suppresses the true pro-style quarterbacks. You have to have some kind of running element to your game. I really like what we can get from Sam Leavitt, who is transferring from Arizona State to LSU. Really has that dual threat gunslinger kind of a profile, similar to Jackson Dart, similar to Matt Corral, who obviously head coach Lane Kiffin has turned into fantasy superstars in previous years. Leavitt has that same dynamic ability out of the pocket, an ability to create with his legs and with his arms out of structure. I think that's going to fit well in LSU's Lane Kiffin-led structure. So I'm so in on Sam Leavitt. He has like an ADP around the QB 15 to 20. I think he should be around QB 5. So I'm very bullish on that front. Over there on the running back side of things, I'm pretty excited about Florida running back Jaden Baugh. All right, 6'1", 228. He's got a 585 squat. And the feet, it's not just the power, which he has in spades, but his ability to slide when he's squared up in the hole with a linebacker who is converging on him. The ability to make that guy miss, be it through power or through elusiveness. He can do it both ways. I see him as being a true all-purpose type back, even at his size. He reminds me of Ramondre Stevenson, with a little bit more. He should probably be more of a 4.55, 4.57 guy, which Ramondre was in the 4.65 category. I think he's even faster, but he has the ability to be slippery in space. Very important and rare for a guy who's 6'1", 228 of his kind of size. And over there on the wide receiver side, I am a big Nick Marsh guy. He was at Michigan State last year, transferring over to Indiana. He's going to play that true X role that we saw at Elijah Surratt last year. Elijah Surratt was like a 5th-round draft pick. Nick Marsh is my number 2 wide receiver in the 2027 class, behind only the immortal Jeremiah Smith, who is Julio Jones 2.0. I mean, No problem being wide receiver 2 behind Jeremiah Smith. That is not a knock on anybody. But I think at 6'3", 203, and his ability to separate off the break as well as win downfield is rare. I think Nick Marsh is going to be a superstar at the NFL level.
Love it. So Sam Levitt, Jaden Ball, Nick Marsh, quarterback, running back, and wide receiver there. Merrick Froton, who he likes. You bring up Jeremiah Smith, and he's going to dominate all the headlines. His quarterback, Julian Sayin, as well. But Eric, you and I both know Ohio State, they just got embarrassment of riches over there. And they got to replace Carnell Tate, and they got to revamp receiver room, some running backs as well. So outside of Smith and Sayin this year, anybody else on that Ohio State roster that you're high on?
Yeah, I'll go through 2 players. One of them is just an incoming freshman, so that's really quick. Chris Henry. Any NFL fans are going to know his father, Chris Henry, former Cincinnati Bengals deep threat, and I capitalize the deep threat with him. I mean, one of the truly great downfield ball trackers of all time. Unfortunately, he passed when he was quite young. And Pac-Man Jones, who went to West Virginia with Chris Henry, actually helped out his son, Chris Henry Jr., who is now going to play wide receiver for Ohio State, as all the greats do. He actually helped him out significantly growing up and was a real force in his life. So I got to watch him, Chris Henry, at the Elite 11 a couple years ago when he was only 16. He went there as a sophomore going into junior year. And he was still, against older competition, still incredible against the best of the best. I can't wait to see Chris Henry get reps. I think you'll probably see him. He's slated to be like the wide receiver 4-ish as he, gets acclimated. I think he eventually takes over Devin McCune's wide receiver 2 spot as the season goes on. So be on the lookout for Chris Henry, true freshman wide receiver. And then I'll go with one more, Bo Jackson, not the Auburn / Kansas City Royals / Los Angeles Raiders running back. This is Bo Jackson, the running back for Ohio State. 6 foot, 217 pounds. Man averaged 4.2 yards after contact, a 525 deadlift, 21 miles per hour at his max speed, which is incredible for a guy at that 217 size. Keep in mind with Bo Jackson, right? His numbers aren't going to pop in the same way that he will this year. Last year, he received 10 carries or less in 5 of the first 7 games for Ohio State. All right. He got 0 touches against Texas in week 1. So he was eased in as a true freshman into that role. In the 6 games from week 10 through the Big Ten championship, Jackson earned 13 plus carries with 70 plus rushing yards in each contest with 4 100-yard rushing games. You are going to see Bo Jackson increasingly take on a bigger role, especially with Ohio State. Quietly last year, the slowest paced Power 4 team in the entire country was Ohio State. They're looking to shorten games. They have Matt Patricia as the defensive coordinator and a wealth of talent on the defensive side. You're going to see them riding Bo Jackson in the second half of many of those games where they're just outclassing inferior Big Ten opponents.
Talking with Eric Froton here on You Better You Bet, lead college fantasy football analyst for Yahoo Sports. Give Eric a follow on X at CF Froton. And we're talking college football. We're talking college fantasy football, which is awesome. Eric, you mentioned Sam Levitt, who was a portal quarterback, transferred over from ASU, going to play for LSU. We had a lot this year, a lot of good quarterbacks that were on the move, found new homes. I see you're wearing an Oklahoma State shirt. A lot of people high on Drew Mestemaker, who transferred over from North Texas. Any other quarterbacks outside of Levitt that you really like the new landing home for any QBs?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, as you talked about, the portal is an omnipresent part of our life now. It's like you just have to accept the fact that there will be changeover coming from year to year. If there's somebody that's a fellow transfer that I'm excited about, believe it or not, most of the quarterbacks at the powerful level, at least the ones who were accomplished, they're sticking around at that same spot. Like, you're not seeing the same kind of movement. You would have had, like, Brendan Sorsby probably be the most prolific transfer of this cycle, but as we know, it will not be Brendan Sorsby is the most prolific transfer of this cycle. But I would say 2 guys that are going to have the biggest impact outside of Levitt: Josh Hoover going from TCU to Indiana. That Sonny Dykes system, he's throwing the ball all over the place. Interceptions, he had 13 last year, had a lot of interceptions. That's something you'll want to see him cut down on at Indiana. Kurt Cignetti is notoriously structured in his offense. They don't take chances. You didn't see Mendoza out there making mistakes, and that was really why Indiana was so potent. They just didn't beat themselves. And Hoover hopefully can sort of, adopt that ethos and not take the kind of chances that you'd see him take at times for TCU. But, being a veteran signal caller, steady, been through it a few times, he should be ready to make that transition. And if there's another one that, from a fantasy perspective, is even more impactful, it's Byron Brown, who's coming from USF to Auburn, following his head coach, Alex Golish, who was Josh Heupel's offensive coordinator before Heupel went over to Tennessee. Very similar system you'll see Auburn and Tennessee running this year between those two coaches. But Byron Brown goes over to Auburn. He was the running cheat code for running QBs last year. And as we mentioned, with 4-point passing touchdowns, that's huge. My concern is I saw him go through his pro day at the Elite 11 this year, the finals. He was one of the counselors, and he has this hitch in his throwing motion that I have concerns making that leap from the AAC to the SEC. Like, we're talking about the best of the best here. And what he could get away with at the G6 level, I don't think he's going to get away with here. They're going to need a more pro-style capable quarterback to come in next year. I feel like Byram is kind of a placeholder who knows the system, is going to be competent, but I don't think he's going to be nearly as effective as he was at USF. He'll be able to run. I don't see him being able to make the throws, which means he has like top 5 potential. I don't think you see him reach that rarefied air, probably closer to QB 15 to 20 for me.
Eric, who are going to be those offensive teams, maybe in the middle of the Big Ten, middle of the SEC? Because everybody knows Notre Dame, Miami, Ohio State on the top of those conferences. But who could be some good teams fantasy-wise in the middle of pack of those Power 4 conferences that you think will be really productive this year and help a lot of people out, score a lot of points?
Sure. In terms of the Big Ten, and the Big Ten is really, it's topsy-turvy. It's inconsistent in terms of the talent level of each team. The SEC is pretty darn close. They're all going to be pretty good. I mean, you're going to have Vanderbilt and Arkansas in a sort of a rebuild situation this year, but everyone else is pretty competent. You can really make hay against the lower half of the Big Ten when you're one of those big dogs. And obviously the Oregons, the Indianas, the Ohio States, they're going to be just fine. If we're talking about like that middle pack to upper middle, like where they can still be competent, but they're not going to challenge the big boys. You're probably looking at USC, year in, year out, the Lincoln Riley system. You got Jaden Mayaba, who is a seasoned, steady veteran quarterback, was actually a running threat pretty much at UNLV. They did a lot of RPO type stuff with him. Not as much last year. He only ran for like 150 yards and 6 touchdowns on the ground, but very effective distributor. Tanook Hines should be able to take over that wide receiver 1 role. They really groomed him for it last year. And you have a trio of extremely talented freshmen coming in: Wyatt Dixon, Boobie Feaster, and Trey Mosley. So they're always rebuilding USC. They have an excellent signal caller that I think will be able to keep the continuity in the passing game. And they'll be able to just rip through Maryland, Rutgers, Michigan State, UCLA across the way where they're rebuilding with Chesney. I think you'll see them being able to put major fantasy points in. Even though there's turnover in the passing game, one of those guys is going to pop, and they're going to have a big season, just like they always do at USC.
Eric, we got about a couple of minutes left here. You brought up Sorsby and Texas Tech. They're so interesting because that's dominating all the headlines, but Hammond played some games last year for them. They feel good about him. Eakin's back. They got, running back Dickey's back as well. So they got some guys there, and they got an easy schedule. Do you still think Texas Tech is the best offensive option in the Big 12, or is there another team or two that you would look at in that conference?
First off, that was an excellent breakdown of Texas Tech, my friend. You know what's going on here in the college streets.
Yes, sir.
All right, buddy. All right, we're rolling here. That's what I like to hear. My man with Texas Tech. Yeah, with Texas Tech, as you mentioned, like that wide receiver room is going to have a makeover. You got Eakin back, but Former 5-star prospect Micah Hudson is running with the first team. Micah Hudson transferred to Texas, came back, Texas A&M, came back. They welcomed him with open arms. It's like, hey, take your time, reestablish yourself. And he spent basically all last season barely seeing the field and just rededicating himself. And the reports out of spring were excellent. And that's great because they got Malcolm Simmons coming in. You got Kenny Johnson coming in from Pittsburgh. He was excellent last year. So they've really done a great job of restocking the cupboard over there. And they'll also get Quentin Joyner back, who was transferred over from USC last year. Was supposed to be the starter. They had a 3-man backfield. He was supposed to be the one. Gets injured immediately, like late in the offseason. And then it was Dickey's show, bouncing that off with Jacoby Williams. So they'll have the full backfield back. They'll be powerful there. With Will Hammond, I had a chance to interview Will Hammond a couple of years ago at the Elite 11. I go there every year, and it's a great opportunity to see everybody and compare them. I was struck by engineering major, very sharp, was really appealed to the Zach Kittley system when Kittley was there as the offensive coordinator at Texas Tech, but he's really taken to the new system as well. Yeah, it's not too much different. But his running ability is something I didn't expect. He was really good. Scrambling, with the designed runs, the options. He was excellent last year. Hopefully, he tore his ACL. They're talking about him. Recent reports say he should be back for week 1. But that should be something to monitor. If he's back, if he's ready to roll, I have a lot of confidence in Will Hammond and think that, he should be able to lead the charge there. If I had to pick one offense that I was interested in, I think Utah's going to be a little down. They lose their entire offensive line. That's usually the other 800-pound gorilla in that conference. So I would say, it's probably Texas Tech again. If I had to take one, it's probably them. And if I had to go with a secondary option, I'll be bold and say Houston. I like Connor Wegman. Amari Thomas is
Spears
over there.
comes
They
back.
bring back Mekhi Hughes. Exactly.
Yeah,
there's a lot.
Yep.
There's a lot. And it's year 3 of Fritz, so there's. I like Houston as a dark horse contender in the Big 12.
Great stuff. Eric Froton, give him a follow on X at CF Froton, lead college fantasy football analyst for Yahoo Sports. Eric, congrats, man. Can't wait to fill out a bunch of teams with you guys at Yahoo this season and watch some fantasy football. College, it's going to be unbelievable. Great having you on. We'll do this again soon.
Great. Thank you very much. Have a great one.
Yep, good stuff there from Eric. When we come back, we wrap up the show here. You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM. PJ Glasser filling in for Nick Kostos.
The All-Star break is over, and baseball front offices are...
Welcome back to You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM on Westwood One Sports.
PJ Glasser here with you. We're wrapping up the show on You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM right here on Westwood One Sports. Thanks again to all the great guests that we had on the program today. Mike Tannenbaum joined us to talk NFL. Ryan Noonan joined us to talk Open Championship. Joe Malfa stopped by for some World Cup, and then we were just joined by Eric Froton to talk some college football. Great stuff by all of those gentlemen. As always, you can go check out the You Better You Bet podcast after the show to catch any of those interviews. Got about 3 minutes left. World Cup final on Sunday. Argentina and Spain. Talked about this earlier in the show. I think it's a really simple handicap. I think 90 of us out there probably think the same way about this game. Spain's better, but Argentina has Messi. And it's which one are you willing to go to war with, especially when you're getting Messi at plus money. I'm going with Spain. I just think they're better. When Joe Malfa was joining us too, he just talked about it. The midfield is so good. They're almost robotic with the way they handle their business. I mean, truly, they are just a machine. They don't make mistakes. They pass the ball so well. Their defense is a well-oiled machine. They've only given up 1 goal the entire tournament. Argentina has not played a team as well coached, as well run, and just that executes the way that Spain does. And I think that's going to catch up with them on Sunday. As great of a story as it would be for Messi to win another one, we all appreciate greatness. We all appreciate what this man is doing. I just think they're running into a buzzsaw. Now, would it shock me if Argentina won? Of course not. Anything can happen in these knockout round games. It could be 0-0. It could be 1-1 going into extra time. You go to penalties. And then, obviously, anything can happen. I just think Spain's better. And especially from a betting angle, you're paying the Messi tax. I mean, Spain's minus 160 feels like they should be closer to minus 200, especially what they did to France. And then really England giving away that game with Thomas Tuchel just parking the bus after they score and go up 1-0. Like, Spain's just not going to do any of these things that the other teams have done. And I think that's really the big difference. You know, when you're playing against Argentina, when you're playing against the lure, the aura of Messi, it's like in any of these like college games, especially in college basketball, when you get like a 1 versus 16 or a 2 versus 15, or in college football, when you get like Alabama or Ohio State going up against, you know, Arkansas Pine Bluff or Georgia Southern, whatever it may be, like the eyes just pop out. They get big. You're going up against future NFL players, future NBA players. You're going up against future Hall of Famers, kids that you maybe grew up watching mixtapes of in college. It's the same thing with Messi, but Spain's not going to back down. They're not going to play that game. And I think they're going to win. And I would take them in regulation plus 130. I'd take them to lift the cup at minus 162. So I'll take Spain. As for the Open Championship, Cam Young, I think, is super intriguing. I think he's got a great shot at winning it. Scotty Scheffler's 3 under right now. He's playing pretty good. I don't think Scotty's going to win, but I think he's probably going to finish in that top 5. So that could be a good bet. But I'll go with Cam Young to win the Open at Royal Birkdale. Thanks again to everybody behind the scenes. Mike Brown, Dan, Kenny, Bill Zimmerman, and Laura back there in California as well, working the board. Hope everybody has a great weekend. Nick Kostos back on Monday. I'll see you guys later. It's been You Better You Bet, presented by BetMGM here, Westwood One Sports with PJ Glass.